I posted a video a couple of months ago where I ranked the best Christmas episodes ever aired in television, in my opinion. And I received some comments, especially from one guy saying something like, I still like you, but you know, your choices are very girly. Um, and I don't want, this is not a video I'm not trying to throw shade or anything at this guy. This guy is awesome. He's been so supportive of everything that I've done so far. And if you're watching this video again, this is not aimed at you whatsoever. It made me think, you know, it just made me think because I feel like we get that a lot. So I just wanted to try to understand this better. I wanted to explore what makes a show girly, which media are men allowed to watch, and where exactly does this divide come from? So first off, these are the shows that I included. Can you spot the girly shows? The first one is Supernatural. I went online, as I often do when I want to be scared, and I've seen so many like worried posts from guys. I've been watching Supernatural for the last 5 years and recently was talking to a friend about it, and he told me Supernatural is a girls show. Is it true? You can hear the pain in his post, like, what, have I been watching the wrong show? Am I an outcast now? What does this show say is about me? But it is funny, the Supernatural case is funny because Eric Kripke, the creator, initially pitched the show with a very clear target in mind. The show was aimed at young males. And then somehow, because of a series of reasons, basically a lot of girls started to watch Supernatural. And it's like the guys who initially loved the show, just when they realized that there were a lot of girls watching it, they immediately fled the scene. It's just like, nope, I'm out of here. Second show was the X-Files. I haven't found anything about the X-Files being girly or whatever, so I guess it is a mainly show. Ally McBeal. Ally McBeal was defined as a prime example of a chick flick show in an article by Vanity Fair. This was actually a show, in my opinion, which was extremely innovative for its time. I mean, we're talking about a really old show. This was a show that had Asian characters and African American characters whose presence had nothing to do with the fact that they were Asian or black. And this is something very innovative. This is something that is still very hard to find nowadays in the media. Then there was DOC, which obviously is not just for females, but it's for teen girls. Just remember that this was not a list about the best TV series ever created. This was a list about the best Christmas episodes. And as such, the Chrismukkah episode in DOC, it has achieved a pop culture notoriety, which was relevant, which was important for me to put in that list. But obviously, this wasn't looked at as much as, wow, you included DOC. Are you insane? Then I included Black Mirror, which is one of the few current shows which I feel like most men watch and just, you know, it has the stamp of approval. And then we have Gilmore Girls. I mean, Gilmore Girls literally has girls in it, in the title. It's mainly a drama, which for a female show automatically translates into a melodrama. This guy says that he eats the DVDs, and he said, the abundant femininity of Gilmore Girls brings in the added flavor of unmanliness. There is also an implied attribute of gayness hanging in the air, hence the need for secrecy. Another one said, I like this one because this one didn't just comment on the show, he actually expanded his argument into the commercials as well. So he said, this means that literally none of the commercials are intended for us, unless you're really interested in relative absorbency of tampons. And the perspective is relentless female. What? Yes, it is a show which features mainly female characters. As many other shows feature mainly male characters and I still watch them, the perspective is human. So what's funny about it is that one of the main writers of Gilmore Girls and the husband of the main creators of the series wrote and produced Family Guy, which is one of the number-wise one of the most watched shows by a male demographic, and is also another funny show. So one may argue that maybe good humor is universal despite the gender, or rather than the gender, I would say the genitalia of the people involved in the cast of that specific series. You may be shocked to hear about this, but there's also guys who actually love Gilmore Girls and have created a podcast about it, a podcast series about it. They are called the Gilmore Guys. I'll put this link as well in the description down below. They're amazing, go check them out. But I guess they all must be gay, very gay, very, very gay. Another show included was The Twilight Zone. I didn't get many comments about that. I feel like not many people watched The Twilight Zone anyway, which is a total shame. Go watch it, it's amazing, especially if you love Black Mirror. Then include Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy is one of my favorite TV series ever, and I don't do the favorites game, okay? I usually don't do the favorites game. Like, I watch so much stuff, I read so many books and watch so many movies and TV series and anime that I literally cannot play the favorites game. But Buffy is incredible. There are lots of men who watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there is a guy on YouTube who has started doing, who's doing video reviews of each episode of Buffy. I mean, that's freaking commitment. And finally, the last one I included was Doctor Who. And well,
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So obviously we would be blind if we didn't relate these issues that people feel concerning the media that they consume to gender stereotypes. Gender stereotypes are the beliefs which concerns the attitudes, behaviors and preferences of the typical man and the typical woman. So women are supposed to like romantic and melodramatic movies, which are often called chick flicks or tearjerkers. The term chick flick is most often used as a derogatory term, and it implies the idea that that movie is supposed to be enjoyed and enjoyable only for a female audience. And it also reinforces the idea that other movies which instead feature prominently men are considered universal. So obviously, in contrast, men are supposed to enjoy action movies and horror movies and dislike romantic or melodramatic movies. But what are the characteristics of the typical woman and the typical man? So a girly girl, which typically enjoys girly films, is typically a girl who puts a lot of emphasis on her appearance, on social gatherings, who only thinks about shopping and the social context. She is possibly often seen as either weak or overtly emotional. A manly man, instead, is the type of man who embodies what masculinity is all about. So he enjoys physical activities, he doesn't possess any sign of femininity, is generally assertive and very competitive. The term chick flick actually first appeared in 1988 in an article to describe erotic movies. So it had nothing to do with what we today consider a chick flick. Then, between the late 80s and the 90s, the term chick flick was reused and repurposed. It started with the movie Steel Magnolias, and it was considered a chick flick simply because it featured a lot of females in its cast. Then we also had Thelma and Louise and Fried Green Tomatoes, which by the way are amazing films, that have also been described as chick flicks simply because they featured females. But it was specifically in the 90s where we moved into using chick flick not only as a movie which has typically a very large female cast, but also a movie which features a lot of romantic, sappy kind of elements. So the term chick flick was used in conjunction to describe the typical rom-coms.
And he like goes to the bedroom and he looks and he comes out and he looks at her and he kind of just, they know, and then they hug and it's
That's a chick's movie.
Female-driven drama are also considered chick flicks. For example, the 2004 movie Wild, that features Reese Witherspoon, was considered a chick flick, even though the movie Into the Wild, which was a very similarly themed movie, was labeled a drama because the main character was a man. A lot of theories have been developed in order to summarize the most prominent accounts of gender differences in movie preferences. One of them is the social learning theory, which was developed by Bandura in 1977. So basically, according to Bandura, in society, children are influenced by a series of individuals which are called models. Some of them may be the parents, their siblings, even characters on the cartoons that they watch on TV. These models provide example of acceptable societal behavior, which they observe and later on in life imitate. The child reproduces the behavior which he deems appropriate for his gender according to which stimulus he has received by the society and by these influential models. The gender schema theory instead was developed by Sandra Byrne in 1981. According to her theory, children also adjust their behavior according to the societal norms which their own culture reinforces, and this happens at the earliest stage of social development. She discards completely Freudian theories, which are way more focused on the influence of anatomy rather than gender development. In addition to this theory, she created a test, the BSRI, which has become one of the most used psychological tools in the world. Its inventory consists of 60 questions which aim to understand whether you have more masculine, feminine, or gender neutral traits. So I've taken the test and my results are I'm 33.3 out of 100 feminine points. I'm 49.16 out of 100 androgynous neutral points. And I am 76.6 out of 100 masculine points. If you're curious, take it as well. I will put the link in the description below. You can always find more information about what I'm talking about in the description below if you'd like to expand on what I said. Now, I would argue that at this point in time, we should reconsider this kind of test and how it still considers what are supposed to be masculine and feminine traits, but I do consider it at least useful in the sense that usually when people look at me, they see, I guess, a girly girl, and then when they get to know me, they realize that my personality is not girly, for whatever they mean with that term. I guess they mean what I described before in what it means to be a girly girl. So at least in this sense, I think it is interesting to understand how you can look a certain way and still be a person which does not reflect what people automatically assume out of you. In that sense, I see myself in the results of this test simply because my personality traits are, I guess, more similar to what I consider masculine traits. However, I think that the moment in which we recognize that a woman can have personality traits which are not representative of what a woman we think we should be, and a man does not necessarily have the personality traits of what we think a man should have, and also we all have a lot of gray thrown in there with a lot of people that just may look a certain way, feel another way, and have some other types of personality traits. I think at this point we need to recognize that perhaps we are way too attached to what we consider feminine and masculine, and just start kind of shaking these labels aside and start to understand that as humans we are incredibly complex, and each one of us has a different type of personality and has more or less degree of specific characteristics which are not inherently male or female, are just human. I found this amazing research, it's pretty recent, it was published in 2017, which I think is particularly telling. Women like typically female genres in media to a lesser degree than what presumed, and the same goes for men. Men like manly media to a lesser degree than what people presume. As a result, we find out that people often overestimate the importance of gendering labels in media for themselves and for others as well. So all of this discomfort that we see online when, like for example in the posts that I read before, or you know, whenever a guy feels awkward and shy about admitting liking something which is not congruent to the kind of genre that he's supposed to like, and the same goes for a girl. That kind of discomfort could be avoided, I think, perhaps in part, if we started to let people know that they actually overestimate this, the importance of these gendered lines.
Hey, ladies. Enjoying the film? Of course not. Because this is our movie! So you can keep the romantic comedies and lady drinks. We're good.
Now, obviously, movies, TV series, books, everything is targeted toward a specific audience. The same goes with products, and everything is a product nowadays. Everything is a brand, as you know. I graduated in advertising, don't kill me. Usually people think that advertising and marketing are evil because they brainwash you, but the reality is that marketing and advertising, all of these kind of practices are rooted in human behavior. In order to sell a product, you study human behavior and you understand how you can appeal to that certain segment. And that couldn't happen if the people themselves wouldn't label their own individuality as something specific. So obviously you see how consumer gender divisions exist, so corporations can sell more of a specific product. So for example, by extending their product line, by starting to sell soaps for men, for example, and giving them a special name, giving them a little of rebranding, a little bit of manliness, and charging more for that specific product. And the same goes, for example, razors. Razors for men actually cost way less than razors for women, but there's still razors. A razor is a razor. It doesn't change the fact it can be gendered, but in our society it is gendered. So this razor is for women, this razor is for men. What happens if you buy the other one? Nothing. It's still a fucking razor. Nothing happens if you buy the other one. It still gets the jobs done. Examining all of this, it's like a circle. It's never ending. And yes, our ideas about gender come a lot from marketing strategies, but they only have power because we give them power. The more we internalize the gender schemes, the more we allow ourselves to be defined and arranged by specific patterns in society. I've mentioned the influences that we have as a young age, as children growing up. I found in other research, facts are sexy. So basically what they've done in this research is that they used two very strongly gender-related toys, such as trucks, which are usually associated with boys, and dolls, which are usually associated with girls. I'm gonna read this because I'm never gonna remember. Basically, the results show that 25% of children used gender labels by 17 months, and 68% by 21 months. And what they found out is that the children who knew and used gender labels were more likely than the other children to show increases in the use of gendered structured toys. The children that already had some type of influence and knew about gender roles typically went for the toy which represented their gender. So boys went for the trucks and girls went for the dolls. The other kids who instead were less influenced by gender norms were way less likely to pick the toy which represented their normal gender representation. So in that case, girls went for trucks as well, and boys went for dolls as well. So when you think about children and when you think about these gender labels issues, you may instantly think about colors, because initially, as soon as a kid is born, we associate a color typically with him or her. So usually it's pink for girls and blue for boys. What is funny, and that many people don't know about it, is that this association was actually reversed at the beginning. In fact, according to Earnshaw Infants Department, in 1918, pink was a more decided and strong color, therefore was more suitable for the boy, while blue, which is more delicate and dainty, is prettier for the girl. Then what happened? Basically this reversed, because there were sailor suits which were blue for young boys, and also the uniform that kids wore at school was blue. And since blue became associated with being serious and studying and becoming someone successful in life, and that was the road that boys were supposed to take, whereas girls were supposed to stay at home and be pretty and all that kind of stuff.
From now on, girls, think pink. Think pink when you shop for summer clothes. Think pink. Think pink if you want that kelp to show.
Now we know that pink is for girls and blue is for boys, but it wasn't like that at the beginning. That doesn't make sense. Yet we still go on with this practice. That should tell a lot about the way that we feel about gender labels and how we advance these gender labels. So this whole video started because of some comments that I've received. The aim was not to address those comments. The aim was to address a larger issue, which is still very present in our society. We like to think that this isn't the case. We like to think that, every time that I read online feminist agenda or gay agenda or I don't know what you're talking about. We still live in a society which is strongly defined by gender labels. It just doesn't represent us, does it? Do you really want to be represented by this type of assumed behavior, characteristics, and products or colors or whatever it is? Or do you want to be recognized as an individual with its own behavior, with its own traits, with its own preferences? So next time that you like something, just like it regardless of what you think is socially acceptable. The beauty of TV series and movies and books and everything that has a story in it is that amongst other things, is that it makes you think, it makes you travel in a different world than your own. It makes you experience things which are different than what you usually experience. And this can happen regardless of what's the main character gender or what kind of sexual orientation the character have, or what kind of genre that specific piece of media is labeled as. If you are a girl that likes very girly stuff, as they call it, you like shopping and makeup and watching romantic movies, and you cry and you watched The Notebook 50 times, that's fine. That's totally fine. Do it, like it, own it. It's not, it doesn't say anything about you as a person. It doesn't say that you're weak. It doesn't say that you are less than. It doesn't say anything like that. If you don't like it, if you don't like that kind of thing, that's good as well. Also for men, that goes for men as well. And I feel like sometimes men have it worse, in the sense that when you are a man which has trait characteristics, which, as the ones that we saw before, which are not typically associated with masculinity, you are automatically associated with the derogatory female traits, which obviously are derogatory for females, but for men, they're even more derogatory, because at least we know that females should be that way. You shouldn't be that way. Genre in TV series and movies are not gendered. They shouldn't be gendered. Watch what you like. Talk about what you like. Obsess over what you like. If you think that something looks good, or if you read a comment of someone saying, oh my god, Buffy is such an amazing show, and you have this thing in your head being like, I always wanted to watch Buffy, but it's not really for me, is it? Watch it, because yes, it is for you, it is for everyone. And I hope that in the future, hopefully not too long in the future, we can start recognizing that each one of us is different, and each one of us should be allowed to watch, enjoy, like, talk about, and be who they want to be. Because if we don't have that, we really don't have anything, do we? So, if you like this video and you would like to watch more of my stuff, I'm trying my best to post quite regularly. I have lots of videos in the making. So subscribe and hit the notification button, and you will know when my next video is up. So thank you for watching. Bye.